While you were watching this man cut the ribbon at a children's hospital, he was simultaneously stealing the college funds of the very nurses caring for those kids. That's not hyperbole. That's not clickbait. That's just what happened. Theodore Blackstone donated $50 million to charity. $50 million. Schools in Guatemala. Hurricane relief. Cancer research. The man was practically a saint. He was also running a $65 billion Ponzi scheme. Every dollar he handed to those charities? Stolen. The money that built those schools? Ripped from retirement accounts. The hurricane relief funds? College savings accounts, emptied overnight. But here's what makes this different from every other financial crime story you've heard. Theo didn't just steal money and disappear. He didn't hide in some offshore tax haven. He stood in front of cameras, accepting humanitarian awards, while his victims were losing everything they'd worked for. The FBI called it the largest financial fraud in American history. But that's not the part that should keep you up at night. The part that should terrify you is how long everyone let it happen. How many red flags got ignored because people liked what they were seeing. If you think the powerful only get away with this because nobody talks about it, then you already know what to do. Hit subscribe now. If you won't, at least be honest in the comments about why you'd rather look away. This is the story of how a middle-class kid from Connecticut became history's most generous criminal. And why that might be the most dangerous combination of all. Theodore Blackstone grew up normal. His dad was an accountant. His mom taught third grade. They lived in one of those Connecticut suburbs where everyone knew their neighbors and nobody locked their doors. But Theo was different. Not in some obvious way. He just had this thing about him. His high school guidance counselor wrote something in his file that nobody paid attention to at the time. She said he could sell ice to an Eskimo. Meant it as a compliment. Should have been a warning. 1982. Theo graduates with a finance degree from a state school nobody's heard of. Packs everything he owns into a Honda Civic and drives to Manhattan with $500 in his pocket. $500. That's it. He starts as a junior analyst at some nobody investment firm in Queens. 12-hour days, coffee runs, photocopying. The kind of job that breaks most people. Not Theo. Within 2 years, he's bringing in clients his bosses can't touch. These wealthy guys who wouldn't normally give a junior analyst the time of day, they're taking meetings with him. Investing serious money based on his recommendations. And here's the thing, he was good at it. Actually good. 1985. He's 27 years old and he opens his own shop. Blackstone Capital Management. 1 room in Queens, a used desk, and a phone. His pitch was brilliant. Simple, but brilliant. He told clients he developed something called the Stability Protocol. A trading strategy that could deliver 12 to 15% returns every single year. Didn't matter if the market was up or down. Didn't matter if there was a recession or a boom. 12 to 15%. Guaranteed. And for the first 10 years, he delivered. Every single client got exactly what he promised. The returns were consistent, the statements were clean, and Theo was becoming the guy everyone wanted to know. You know that feeling when you're watching someone live your dream? That was Theo in the late 80s and early 90s. Small-town kid makes it big in the big city. Smart, charming, successful. Everything you're supposed to want. But here's what nobody talks about with success stories like this. The pressure doesn't go away when you start winning. It gets worse. Because now you have something to lose. Now people are watching. Now you have to keep delivering those impossible numbers, month after month, year after year. And when the market started getting unpredictable in the mid-90s, when those guaranteed returns became harder and harder to deliver legitimately, Theo faced a choice. He could admit he wasn't the genius everyone thought he was. Or he could find another way to keep the money flowing. Guess which one he picked? 1995. The market goes crazy. Not crash crazy, just unpredictable crazy. The kind where your perfect trading strategy stops being perfect. Theo's looking at his books and he's got a problem. His clients expect their 15%. They've been getting it for 10 years. But this quarter? He's down 8%. So he makes the decision. Just this once. Just to get through this rough patch. He takes money from new investors and uses it to pay the returns he owes to existing clients. Classic Ponzi scheme move, except Theo tells himself it's different. He's not a criminal. He's just buying time until the market stabilizes. 3 months later, he has to do it again. Then again. By the end of 1995, Theo's not running an investment firm anymore. He's running a lie. But here's where it gets twisted. 1998. 3 years into his fraud, Theo starts the Blackstone Foundation for Global Progress. Education, healthcare, disaster relief. All the causes that make you feel good about humanity. The media loves it. Wall Street genius gives back to the world. Here's a guy who's not just getting rich, he's using his wealth to make a difference. And the donations are real. $50 million over 10 years. Real money going to real causes, helping real people. There's just one problem. None of that money belonged to him. Every dollar Theo donated to charity was stolen from someone else. The $10 million he gave to build schools in Guatemala? That came from retirement accounts. Teachers in Detroit who'd been saving for 30 years, gone. Hurricane Katrina hits in 2005. Theo donates $2 million to relief efforts. Gets his picture in the paper, standing next to families who lost everything. Beautiful moment, right? Except that $2 million came from teachers' pension funds. The same teachers who might have been displaced by that hurricane. The cancer research donations? $5 million to help kids fight leukemia. Heartwarming stuff. Paid for with college funds. Parents who'd been saving since their kids were born, planning to send them to school, watching their accounts drain while thinking their money was growing safely with the great Theodore Blackstone. You want to know what makes this so sick? Every time Theo cut a ribbon at a hospital or handed over one of those giant charity checks, the people applauding him might have been his victims. The nurses at that children's hospital he donated to? Their retirement fund was invested with Blackstone capital. The teachers at the school he funded? Their pension was gone. And Theo knew it. He had to know it. You can't run a fraud this big without knowing exactly whose money you're stealing. But he kept doing it. Kept taking those photos. Kept accepting those humanitarian awards. Crimes like this thrive in silence. If you don't subscribe to channels that expose them, ask yourself, are you helping stop it, or letting it happen again? Drop your answer in the comments if you think you can justify it. Because while Theo was getting standing ovations for his generosity, somewhere else, a grandmother was opening her retirement statement and wondering why 40 years of savings had vanished. A parent was trying to figure out how to pay for their kids' college after the fund they'd trusted disappeared. A teacher was realizing their pension was gone. Theo wasn't just stealing money. He was stealing hope. And then using that stolen hope to build himself a reputation as the most generous man in America. That's not irony. That's evil. $25 million. That's what Theo paid for his Manhattan penthouse in 2003. $25 million for a place with views of Central Park and enough space to host senators. Every square foot paid for with stolen money. But here's what makes it worse. Theo didn't live there alone. His wife Isabella genuinely believed they were changing the world. She'd give interviews about their philanthropic mission, talking about the responsibility that comes with wealth. How blessed they felt to help others. She had no idea the blessing was built on destroying families. Their 3 kids went to the most expensive private schools in Manhattan. Summer camps that cost more than most people's cars. They grew up thinking this was normal. That dad was just really good at making money. The yacht was called philanthropy. 200 feet of floating irony. Theo would host charity fundraisers on deck while investors' life savings disappeared below deck in fake account statements. And the private island in the Caribbean? That's where the family spent Christmas every year. While back in America, families were spending Christmas wondering how they'd pay rent after their retirement accounts got emptied. None of this could happen with just one person. Theo needed help. His brother-in-law Jonathan Sterling ran the books as CFO. Guy knew exactly what they were doing. Had to. You don't create fake financial statements by accident. Rebecca Thorne, his assistant for 15 years. She wasn't just answering phones. She was forging client communications, creating fake trade confirmations. Every lie that kept the scheme running passed through her hands. But the real genius was the feeder network. Smaller investment firms that brought Theo new money in exchange for massive commissions. Some of these guys genuinely thought they were dealing with a legitimate genius. Others just didn't ask questions because the money was too good. The lifestyle kept growing. Bigger donations meant bigger galas. Bigger galas meant more celebrities. More celebrities meant more media coverage. More coverage meant more investors. Each step required more victims. The math was getting impossible. By 2005, Theo needed to find $300 million in new money every year just to pay existing clients their returns. That's not including his own lifestyle, the donations, the overhead. $300 million. Every single year. You can feel the pressure building, right? How do you keep finding that much fresh money when you're not actually investing anything? When every dollar coming in has to go right back out to pay fake returns. But Theo kept spending. Each purchase was like a drug. The $15,000 watch. The custom suits. The private jet that cost more per hour than most people make in a month. Every luxury meant more people getting destroyed. That watch. Paid for with a teacher's pension. The private jet. College funds from dozens of families. This is how billion-dollar liars survive. They count on you to be entertained, not informed. If you won't subscribe, fine. But at least write in the comments why you think your silence won't cost someone else everything. Because by 2007, the numbers weren't just getting hard to hide. They were becoming mathematically impossible. Theo was running out of new money to steal. The scheme was eating itself alive. And something was coming that would expose it all. 2005. A financial blogger named Harry Markowitz starts asking questions nobody else wanted to ask. Harry's not some big-shot Wall Street analyst. He's just a guy who understands math. And Theo's numbers don't add up. 15% returns. Every single year. For 20 years. Through market crashes, recessions, booms, busts. Doesn't matter what's happening in the world, Theo's clients get their 15%. Harry writes a blog post. The Blackstone Impossibility. Shows the math. Explains why what Theo's claiming can't be real. The post gets 12 views. Meanwhile, the Securities and Exchange Commission is getting tips. Multiple tips. Anonymous letters saying something's wrong at Blackstone Capital. They send investigators. Theo meets them in his conference room. Brings out perfectly prepared statements, fake trading records, fabricated client communications. But that's not what convinces them. It's the charm. Same charm that got him clients in the first place. The investigators leave thinking they've met a genuine genius. Case closed. No further investigation needed. This happens 3 times. 3 separate investigations. Same result every time. But here's the real problem. The investors didn't want to know the truth. They were making money. Consistent money. Why would they question that? Harry keeps writing. Posts more articles. Why Blackstone's returns are statistically impossible. The math that proves fraud. Gets hate mail from Theo's investors. They don't want some blogger ruining their golden goose. Let me explain the math Harry was trying to show everyone. In legitimate investing, you can't get 15% returns every single year. The market doesn't work that way. If you're making 15% consistently, you're either 1. Trading with insider information, 2. Taking massive risks that will eventually blow up, 3. Running a fraud. Real investing looks like this. Some years you make 25%, some years you lose 10%. Over time you average maybe 8 to 10% if you're really good. Nobody gets 15% every year. Nobody. The SEC had the math. They had the tips. They had investigators who could have dug deeper. But Theo was charming. His clients were happy. His donations made him look like a saint. And here's the ugly truth about regulatory capture. When someone's giving millions to charity, when they're well-connected, When their clients are powerful people, regulators don't want to be the bad guy who ruins the party. So Harry keeps blogging to nobody. The SEC keeps filing reports that go nowhere. Theo keeps stealing billions. Every time a red flag is ignored, another scam is born. Subscribing here means you'll never be the one who says, "I should have seen it coming." If you'd rather stay in the dark, comment below and explain why. Because by 2008, all the ignored warnings, all the missed red flags, all the willful blindness was about to come crashing down. And when it did, there wouldn't be enough money left to save anyone. September 2008. The financial world explodes. Banks collapse. The stock market loses half its value in weeks. Everyone's panicking, everyone's pulling their money out of everything, including Theo's fund. The calls start coming in October. Clients want their money back. Not some of it. All of it. Right now. First day, 50 million in redemption requests. Second day, 200 million. By November, $7 billion. $7 billion that doesn't exist. Never existed. Theo's sitting in his office, looking at requests for money he doesn't have, from accounts that were never real, for profits that were always fake. December 10th, 2008. Theo calls his sons to the penthouse. These are grown men, successful in their own right. They think Dad wants to talk business. Instead, he tells them the truth. For the first time in 13 years, Theodore Blackstone tells the truth. It's all been one big lie. Those are his exact words. One big lie. His sons ask how much is missing. Theo can't even answer. The numbers are so big, so impossible, that he's lost track. Tens of billions. Maybe more. Everything their father built. Every donation they were proud of. Every charity gala they attended. Every award ceremony they applauded at. All built on stolen money. One of his sons calls the FBI that night. Doesn't wait for morning. Doesn't try to protect the family name. Just calls. 24 hours. That's how long Theo has between confessing to his sons and hearing the handcuffs click shut. The cameras are everywhere. America's most beloved philanthropist, the man who saved schools and funded hospitals, being arrested for the largest financial fraud in history. Left side of your screen, Theo cutting ribbons, accepting humanitarian awards, shaking hands with children he claimed to help. Right side, Theo in handcuffs, head down, everything he built turning to dust. The investigation reveals the scope. $64.8 billion. The largest Ponzi scheme in American history. More than 3 times bigger than anyone thought possible. 16,000 direct victims. But the ripple effects hit hundreds of thousands more. Pension funds wiped out. Charities forced to close. Universities losing their endowments. The media goes insane. This isn't just a financial story anymore. This is about trust. About how the most generous man in America turned out to be the most destructive criminal in history. Remember those schools in Guatemala he funded? Shut down. The scholarship program in Detroit? Gone. The cancer research donations? The hospitals had to return money they'd already spent, money that never really existed anyway. Every good thing Theodore Blackstone ever did was paid for with someone else's suffering. Every ribbon he cut, every speech he gave, every award he accepted, all of it was built on the financial destruction of thousands of families. And now, finally, it was time to face what he'd done. The victims started lining up at dawn. Not just a few people. Hundreds. Carrying folders full of destroyed dreams, bank statements showing zero, photos of futures that would never happen. Margaret Chen, 73 years old. Worked as a nurse for 45 years. Saved every penny for retirement. Put it all with Blackstone Capital because they promised security. Lost everything. Had to move in with her daughter. Had to go back to work at 73. David Rodriguez. Started a college fund the day his daughter was born. 18 years of deposits, birthday money, every raise he got went into that account. Blackstone was supposed to turn it into her future. She's working at a gas station now. Never went to college. Can't afford it. The charities Theo funded couldn't survive the scandal. Those schools in Guatemala closed within 6 months. The kids who were getting educated there just stopped learning. The scholarship program in Detroit that was helping inner-city kids get to college? Gone. Not just the future scholarships. The kids already in college had to drop out when the money disappeared. June 29, 2009. Federal Courthouse, Manhattan. Judge Denny Chin reads the sentence. 150 years in federal prison. Theo doesn't react. Doesn't show emotion. Just sits there like he's hearing someone else's sentence. The victims in the gallery are crying. Some with relief. Some with rage. Some just with exhaustion from 2 years of fighting to get back what was stolen from them. The government recovered what they could. Sold the penthouse, the yacht, the private island. Liquidated every asset Theo had touched. $14 billion. That's what they got back from a $65 billion theft. 14 out of 65. Jonathan Sterling, the brother-in-law who kept the fake books? 10 years. Rebecca Thorne, the assistant who forged everything? 5 years. They cooperated. Testified against Theo. Got lighter sentences because they helped investigators understand how deep the fraud went. ADX Florence. Maximum Security Federal Penitentiary in Colorado. That's where they sent Theo. 23 hours a day in a 7x12 concrete cell. 1 hour of exercise in a cage slightly bigger than his cell. No contact with other inmates. The isolation isn't just punishment. It's protection. Other inmates know who he is. Know their families might have been his victims. Prison guards have stopped 3 different attempts on his life. Death threats come in the mail every week. He's 70 now. Been in that cell for 15 years. His wife divorced him. His children changed their names. His grandchildren don't know who he is. But the people he destroyed, they're still destroyed. Margaret the nurse died working at 78. Never got to retire. David's daughter still works at that gas station. Still can't afford college. The charitable programs that depended on his donations never recovered. Hundreds of kids lost educational opportunities. Medical research programs shut down. Disaster relief efforts got canceled. So Theo got his justice. A life sentence in a concrete box. But justice for him doesn't undo what he did to everyone else. $50 billion doesn't just disappear. Takes dreams with it. The Blackstone scandal changed everything. The SEC completely rebuilt how they investigate financial crimes. More agents, better training, mandatory skepticism when returns look too consistent. Now they don't just take charming explanations and fake documents. They verify everything. Cross-reference every trade. Check every number. But the damage to trust? That's permanent. After Theo, people stopped trusting big philanthropists. Donations to major charities dropped 30% the year after his arrest. They're still recovering. When the most generous man in America turns out to be the biggest thief in history, people stop believing in generosity. That's the real crime. Not just the money. The hope. Theo didn't just steal $65 billion. He stole faith in the idea that successful people want to make the world better. He stole trust in institutions. He stole the belief that charity comes from genuine caring. Every legitimate philanthropist now gets looked at sideways. Every major donation gets questioned. Every charity has to prove their donors are clean. That's Theo's real legacy. Cynicism. Here's what you need to remember. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. 15% returns every year? Impossible. Anyone promising that is lying. Charm doesn't equal competence. Theo could sell anything to anyone. That didn't make him good at investing. It made him good at lying. And greed? Greed always wins. Once Theo started stealing, he couldn't stop. The lifestyle became more important than the victims. The next Theo Blackstone is already out there. Different name, different scheme, same pattern. They're charming. They're promising impossible returns. They're probably giving to charity to look legitimate. And they'll get away with it if nobody's watching. If nobody asks questions. If nobody demands proof. The next Theo Blackstone is already out there, and they'll get away with it if nobody's watching. Subscribing is your line in the sand. If you won't cross it, own up in the comments and tell us why you're comfortable with that risk. Because this is just the beginning. Blood and Billions has more stories about the ultra-wealthy and their darkest secrets. Tech CEOs who killed for stock options. Real estate moguls who buried witnesses. Crypto kings who built empires on murder. They're all counting on you to look away. To be entertained instead of informed. To stay silent instead of asking questions. Don't let them count on that. The truth is the only thing that stops the next Theodore Blackstone. And the truth is what you'll get here. Every single time.